Come, Holy Spirit, a reflection for Pentecost. In celebration of the solemnity of Pentecost, the Church calls for a vigil. Unlike the typical Saturday night Mass, this vigil has its own set of readings, distinct from Sundays, with several choices provided from the Old Testament. The first of these, from the book of Genesis, relates to the first reading for this Sunday in a unique way, forming a set of thematic bookends. There are stories that go back in time as far, for the ancient Hebrews, as their stories go back for us. In this time before time, there were epic tales of the earth and its struggles that our ancestors in faith heard before they told their own stories. As Israel began to emerge as a people and to distinguish its life from that of its neighbors, it became apparent that while these old stories contained some truth, they demanded certain changes. The ancient epics did not reflect Israel's experience of the one God, nor did they align with the values of a people living in covenant with that God. In some respects, the old stories were just wrong. The vigil reading from Genesis reflects this corrective impulse. Though the tower usually bears the name Babel, the city, Babylon, gets the blame. In the biblical text, the tower never stands alone. Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower, and so make a name for ourselves. In contrast, Israel becomes a people at God's bidding. At every turn in Israel's story, God does the naming. To our ancestors, city meant complex society, intricate architecture, crowds of people, crime, and huge overblown temples. It meant Babylon. The word play in Hebrew between Babel and confusion takes a backhanded swipe at the big city. This Sunday's first reading describes the noisy delivery of the church from the womb of God, underscored by the sound, strong driving wind, and fury, tongues of fire, of the Holy Spirit. We witness the birth of a new city. Here, persons from every nation under heaven understand one another, with each one hearing of the mighty acts of God in his own language. This new birth in the Spirit reverses the confusion and scattering portrayed in Genesis. Babel stands corrected. We respond with Psalm 104. Assigned to both the Vigil and Sunday Mass of Pentecost, as well as to the Easter Vigil, Psalm 104 brackets the 50 days between Easter and Pentecost, another set of bookends. It praises the creator of a perfect world where right relationships and ecological harmony produce justice for all. Different selections of verses complement the different readings on these three occasions. Verses 1 and 2, common to both vigils, sing of God clothed with majesty and robed in light. Yet this one does not remain in the heavens. This God stoops to the earth to give the breath of life and take it back, to send forth the Spirit and renew the face of the earth. The lectionary offers two possibilities for the gospel reading this Sunday. In the first, The disciples, huddled in fear behind locked doors, encounter the risen Christ, who offers his peace twice, shows them his hands and side, sends them as he himself was sent, and finally breathes the Holy Spirit into them, empowering them for their ministry of reconciliation. This account from the Gospel of John complements the Pentecost account from Luke Acts, portraying the outpouring of the Spirit in a much quieter and more intimate setting. From it, we get a sense that the movement of the Spirit happens in the silence of hearts, between persons and among people, and aims to counter fear with peace and sin with forgiveness. In the second option, again from John, we hear, "If you love me, you will keep my commandments," which for John means, love one another. We then get a reprise from the 6th Sunday of Easter, telling of God's dwelling with those who keep this word and promising that the Advocate will soon arrive to teach the disciples and us everything. Come, Holy Spirit.